Good afternoon. I am Tina Tasaka, and this is the Lotus broadcast powered by Cannabis X America. And welcome to the show, Martez Knox.
Hello, hello, hello.
Martez and we met on LinkedIn, and I got to tell you, I'm on LinkedIn a lot, and I was looking at your profile, and when I saw BakedBOT, and I saw AI, and I saw autonomous retail, and I saw cannabis, I thought, I got to meet this guy. And so I reached out to you, and you had done a podcast with Unshackled. And
Correct.
so you certainly, had your hands around the industry, and you had been featured with Benzinga also. So all of those components together, just made me want to meet you. So we had a little bit of a conversation, and I said, "Let's jump on a podcast. Let's talk. Let's talk about bots AI, because it certainly is intriguing." And AI, of course, is a buzzword across the nation, across the world. I think we're in a war, an AI war. Who's going to get there first? Who's going to do it better? The Trump administration wants to be number one, in the world, and let's hope that we are. Let's hope that America is number one, right? Let's hope that
Absolutely.
we're gonna, let's hope that we're at the top of the game, right?
Yeah.
So here we are. So welcome.
Thank you.
So Martez, I'd love to know your background and how you got into AI and what your technical background is.
Sure, sure. First off, Tina, I want to thank you for having me on your platform. Really appreciate you just, inviting me on and taking the time. Uh, as everyone knows, and thank you for the introduction. I'm Martez Knox. I'm founder and one third of the founder group here and CEO as well. My background is in marketing automation and marketing technology. I've been marketing, for over 20 years now. So I ran everything from marketing departments all the way to CPG campaigns at the account level. So I've been around the block. As I kind of pointed out to you earlier, Tina, one of the things that I believe is my superpower is I don't come from the cannabis industry, right? So certainly, I have a legacy background with the plan, of course, right? But I've never, worked inside of an MSO or not, right? With that being said, I have worked with a lot of dispensaries and different things, but I think it's an important distinction, right? Because I believe when you come from, an industry, sometimes you have entrenched beliefs, right, and about certain things, right, and you just, you might not try it because maybe you have this belief that hey, they already did that, or somebody told me no, right. At Baked by the Eye, we take the opposite approach, right. We're doing it until someone says no, right, and not only that, we're going to push the boundaries, right, ethically, right, and within legal, with boundaries, right. But we're going to push the bounds technologically of what can be done in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to thinking earlier today, I kind of wish that we had a pie, and I sort of wish that we knew if we could slice up that pie. I sort of wish I knew where the cannabis industry was in terms of how we are embracing AI. I mean, how much of it are we really utilizing in our industry? I mean, are we at 5%? Are we at 11? Are we at 19? Are we at 42? Where are we? I think we are highly underutilizing AI. I really do. I think that um, I think that we might be kind of touch. I think everybody's kind of hitting on Chat GPT for a lot of really small things. They might be using Chat GPT just for some daily tedious tasks, simple things, write me a letter, write me a quick marketing campaign, real simple things, write me a quick contract. but I don't think they're executing AI on a big scale. What are your thoughts on that? What are you seeing out there? What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on the percentage of utilization of AI in cannabis? Where do you think we are?
Yeah. So to be fair, I think the utilization at this point is fairly low within the industry, right? We are seeing some uptake, but at the same time, there's entrenchment with a lot of these legacy systems, right? They've been around, since the early, advent of legal cannabis, and in a lot of ways, customers are kind of like stuck to them, right? For example, if you're looking at the marketplaces, right? Dispensary owners, sort of understand innately that, folks are, using their data against them and whatnot, but they have no other place to go to really, well, they feel they have no other place to go, right? To be able to market effectively and reach those customers. So they're basically held hostage, right? So I think where BakedBOT comes in is we bridge that gap, right, between where dispensaries really want to be, right, and we know, dispensaries don't spend a lot on marketing, right? If it's 2% of revenue, that would be lucky, right? But we want to bridge where they want to be, right? Which is to be able to hire and bring in these marketing people to be able to run personalized SMSs and emails and whatnot, right? We allow them to do that, right, with just one marketer, right? And on the flip side of it, right, they don't have to spend a lot to get there, right? So we help, bridge that gap overall.
Yeah, even a basic survey. I don't think I've ever received a survey upon 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, 96 hours upon leaving a dispensary on how was your visit? What did you buy? Well, they should already know what I purchased, right?
Yep.
Even if they don't, that's still okay. But I've never received a survey on what was your experience, from going into the door, presenting my ID, just the whole journey I had through the dispensary. What was that like? And
Yeah.
that is so uber important to understand what that journey was like, because oftentimes it might not have been a very good journey and they're not understanding why people are not returning and coming back through those doors. And a survey is just such a quick, I'm going to call it quick and dirty way of getting that information, yet they don't know and they're not capturing it. You know, they're
Yeah.
just not doing it. Hotels have
Yeah.
been doing it forever. I mean, hotels actually even put the survey in the room before you leave. You please fill out the survey
Yeah.
before you leave the door. Different, of course, because you're in, you're in their building. But you could do that survey before you leave the dispensary. It's manual, and people don't want to take the time to do it. They want to do it digitally.
I, I was going to say, let's unpack that, right? Now, why wouldn't a dispensary, knowing how important that one little aspect is, right? Why wouldn't they make sure to send that out, right? The reason is a human being is responsible for that, right? And human beings have 1,000 under tasks to do, right? So the most important things sometimes get lost in the forest, right?
Yeah,
So what we do is we allow dispensaries and cannabis brands to take that first party data, right? You own that data. We allow you to do all of this stuff autonomously without having to worry about, hey, did that message get sent, right? And Tina, we're optimizing, for really one thing initially, right? And data shows that if you're able to get that customer to come back and shop one, two, three, four, 5 times, right? 5 times is that magic number. If you're able to get them there, then the lifetime value of that customer suddenly goes from nil to a couple years or longer, right? So Smokey and our team were optimizing for how can we get them to come back, the second time, the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, right? And then after that, we know that things get a little bit easier, right? You can kind of let off the gas on your margins a little bit, right? But unless you have an AI running this and you have our AI agents, how do you know? Hey, let me let off the gas a little bit, right? Because customers shift in and out of different customer segments, right? So what started out as like a high value, high frequent shopper, maybe the next month they only came in once and they only bought an eighth, right? How does your messaging change to reflect that, right? our tool allows you to do that autonomously, right? That's something that a marketer would have a difficult time doing, because people go in and out of different customer segments all the time, right? Again, you've been shopping for the last 6 months. All of a sudden, you only come in once the last 6 months. How does your win back campaign catch that? First of all, right? We would know within days, within weeks. Hey, this guy hasn't shot, right? We need to run, this particular optimization, this particular growth engine, autonomously, right? So yeah, we think we're totally doing it different, and envisioning how the world of cannabis looks in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So now you guys, you launched the product at NECAN, is that correct?
That is.
Fantastic. Okay, so NECAN just wrapped what 2 weeks ago? The show,
Uh,
okay,
yeah, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
about
Yep,
2 3 weeks ago. So you had a booth, you were
we
doing
did.
demos.
We there. Yep, it was
Okay.
wonderful. Yep.
So perhaps we could, since this is a brand new product and some people are just really trying to get their heads wrapped around AI, maybe you can just kind of, just really at a high level overview, kind of give kind of a walk us through, the day in the life of Smokey. Smokey's one of the AI bots, right?
Yep. He's
Okay.
he's our
Smokey,
flagship product. Yep.
is Smokey is Smokey male or female?
So,
I'm totally kidding. Okay. So
I was
walk
just, I
us through.
was,
I had another guy
I'm
on the
glad
other
you
night
asked.
for a
I'm saying,
podcast. Boy, he sure wanted to make the robots male and female. I was like, dude, it doesn't matter. They're a robot.
the good news is you can give Smokey whatever kind of personality you want to, right?
Indeed,
So
indeed.
yeah, so that's the beautiful thing. So in this
So
situation, let's just say Smokey is a guy.
yeah, I mean, I was totally kidding, but anyway, so what can you walk us through, like, just a dispensary who is really having a difficulty, they kind of want to get started like with the basics. What would be your best counsel on, getting them started up and running? They need some marketing campaigns. That's where their pain points are. They've got to get some marketing outreach. Maybe they have two dispensaries in a city, and they're really struggling. They just have no outreach whatsoever. Kind of maybe in that realm. What would be your best counsel of how to get them up and going, and what would that look like with some AI bots?
Sure. So the beautiful thing about this is we do have a free plan, right? But I think where the dispensary should start at is in our onboarding. And what we do is when you put your dispensary in, we'll pull in all of your competitors automatically, right? And if we have product data on there, we clearly identify that and we automatically sync that product data, right? So the first step in the process before you do any sort of outreach or any of connecting the POS and whatnot is to analyze your competitors, right? And let's find product gaps, right? Let's find opportunities that we can exploit, right? Maybe there's a certain brand of vapes that is moving in another part of the market, but it's not moving here, and you probably should stock, right? Or maybe there's just a hole in the market. These ounces need to be going for this price, but there's sort of a price, a misprice alignment, right? So I think that's where we would start, right? We look at your competitors, and then from there, right, after we found those product gaps, then we bring your customer data onto the platform, right? And then we segment it, right? We run our growth engine against that data, right? And we'll find your high value customers. We'll find your low frequency shopper customers, right? One thing I pointed out in another podcast I did is Smokey, our AI, is able to segment your customers in 500 different ways. Right now, just picture exactly. Now, imagine a human being, having the ability to do it. It's impossible, right? And not
Mhm.
only are we able to do that, as I mentioned earlier, folks go in and out of these different customer segments, right? So what started out as a high value shopper, right? 3 weeks later, if they're spending less, right? not you wouldn't necessarily put them in a segment of a high value shopper, right? So we constantly, adjust and move customers into proper segments based on what's actually happening in real time, right? Another beautiful thing is we're able to personalize this messaging based off certain other psychographic information, right? So we're looking at median income, right? We're looking at median income of the house, right? A lot of other, I don't want to give too much of our secret sauce away, right? But one example I always use for dispensaries, right? If you're a single state operator, you have multiple, locations in one state. Let's say you have a location in a rural area, like one of our customers, and I won't say who, right? And you have another location in an area like Chicago. That messaging that you send should not be the same, right? And where a lot of marketers and dispensaries get that wrong, right, is let's say you are in an area in Chicago on the north side where the median income skews towards $200,000, right? But then, your dispensary in the more rural area is near a college town, right? Why would you be sending deals to the customers that skew 200,000, right? You
Totally
would want
different
to try to
customer.
find them exactly what
Hmm.
our tool allows dispensaries to do is to do that autonomously, right? Without having to hire an expensive marketer, an expensive consultant. You just plug in your data, right? Literally and hit go. But one of the things that I was relentless about my team when it comes down to it is how can we provide value before they even put any of their data in beyond their business name, right? And coming out of NECAN, that was what I took away, right? Like, how can we provide value if I just met, Tina on the street and you have a dispensary, right? If I was able to show you what your competitors are doing, what their average prices is, what are their marketing opportunity gaps within 5 minutes for no cost, right? I've delivered some value there, right? And at that point, I think I've earned the
Yeah,
right to
it's liquid
say,
gold. That's some
yeah,
liquid gold right there.
here we go, right? And then hopefully we've earned the right to say, hey, continue. And then once you get on the platform, you meet our other agents, and we're doing this competitive analysis. You're able to chat with Smokey and do a lot of different stuff. Then you realize, like, okay, this is what I've been missing, right? And your marketing costs go down close to 50%, right? Depending on what mixture of integrations and platforms you're using, and your sales go up, right? Why? Because you're sending out the right messaging at the right time, right? You're not ever neglecting to do that. So yeah, excited.
It is so exciting. I mean, I can't even imagine having something so powerful and yet to be able to get all the competitive pricing. I mean, it's nearly it's just it would be it you would not be able to do that. I mean, it's going to go out and take a look at all the pricing on Weed Maps, all the pricing on Dutchy, all the pricing on Leafly, all
Yep.
of these other ancillary other systems that we don't even know about because there's so many websites out there whereby somebody has presented pricing, whether it's updated or not. Somebody has put information out there, and you're able to go out there and grab it and just instantaneously bring that forward and give the operator what they need to base their information on. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and what we've done is actually taken it a step further, right? Not only do you get that information right, it's actionable, right? But we can also autonomously act on it, right? So right now, we're very big on keeping a human in the loop, right? But we're working to build in a confidence meter, right, where you can be sure about the messaging that Smokey is sending out because it's done it, over hundreds or even thousands of other campaigns that are similar, right? And then you can just go full on autonomous mode, right, where it's making the decisions, it's giving you a kind of confidence meter. Maybe you get a text message and it's like, hey, yes or no, and then it runs, right? That's the kind of level of simplicity we want to bring to operators. Because look, you sell weed, right? Be great at that. Find the best strains, right? Get a great mixture of products, you know, and keep focused on the customer experience, right? As long as you're dialed into that experience, I think that dispensaries can win here.
Yeah, and another thing that it made me think about earlier today is the fact that we are in this trade war right now with China, whether people want to say we're in a war or not. Maybe war is a little bit of a strong word, but I
No,
think
no,
we're
it
I
definitely
think
is.
we are moving in that direction pretty strongly right now. I mean, I think that there's massive cargo ships sitting out there in the seas, and I don't know that they're going to make it our way. They're going to start pushing over. They're going to start pushing over cargo into the deep waters, and it's a very serious situation. But the serious situation is the vapes, and that they're all made in China. And what other products in our industry are made in China? I would say more than 50% in the cannabis industry are heavily reliant in China. So let's just break down the vape situation. The number one products are pre-rolls and vapes. People
Yeah,
love to vape, right?
absolutely.
And
People love the vape.
the thing is that, so the vaping situation is when the vapes start becoming not obsolete, but they just we you can't get them anymore, and inventory just becomes lower and lower, and the price becomes higher and higher. What does your AI product look like? How can we help the industry there? Can it be doing
Sure.
some predictive modeling for potential customers that you have and customers that you already have? What do you think that looks like?
Absolutely. So I'm always talking to Smokey about different industry trends and just trying to get feedback and just test the tool from a user perspective, right? But one of the things that Smokey pointed out, and this has been weeks, because one of the first things we thought about, when the tariffs hit, was, hey, what about the vapes, right, and the pre-roll packages, right? So Smokey came up with, what if we were recycled, right? We'll absolutely have to get to a point where we're recycling and bringing
Smokey
home
came back with that. Smokey came back and
smoking.
said, "What if we
So,
recycle?"
so I wish this was my idea, right? But this
Okay.
was
I
this was
was gonna say,
so I and we know that there have been initiatives to sort of push this thing forward, right? But I think what was really missing is a sort of outcry from the business community to say, hey, right, if you're going to tariff, right, then I think one of the things, it's a tax, right? So it's going to reduce demand, right? Necessarily. I think when you come back home, right, then we need to figure out a supply side solution at home, right? In short, right, and recycling to me makes the most sense, right, in this situation. One of the things that we pointed out off camera is the average person that vapes has probably dozens of little plastic valves just sitting at home disused. And as you mentioned as well, maybe it has 25% worth of product left, right? So manufacturers will have to compensate, right? But bring those back, right? And then let's get manufacturing going at home, right? And sort of use that to kickstart, right? Because I don't think it would be my guess that tariffs aren't going to let up on those specific products specifically, right? Because they don't seem to care much about the industry at this point. So I think that they would be a casualty, right? But that's a common sense supply side solution, right? Let's get the recycling program up, and bring tens of thousands, if not millions, of valves, right? And then stand up social equity operators to actually manufacture this stuff, right? Um, and not even manufacture it, right? At this point, it would be a matter of just sanitizing and essentially repackaging and reselling. So common sense solution, courtesy of Smokey.
it is a fantastic solution. And I think in the last 4 years that I've been in Arizona, I think I've been to one event where they said, bring your recycled cartridges. And, I had a baggie full and I brought them, but where'd they go? What'd they do with them? There was never any follow up or,
Follow up.
hey, we did this with them. We recycled them with XYZ company and this was the result. They just kind of went into I don't know, just the vapor world. It's like, well, what was the outcome?
Yeah.
Was there a significant reason why we brought them? I mean, did someone just crush them and throw them away, which is not legal, by the way.
Oh
In a
wow.
lot because
Yeah, that's true.
you can't throw them away because they're, they have chemicals in them. You
Yeah.
can't destroy them. You have to. There's a certain way you have to destroy them by law in most states.
Hmm.
Um, so it's like, well, what they do with them?
Yeah.
I mean,
So me being an entrepreneur and capitalist, to me it seems like an opportunity for the market, to come up with a solution and find a loophole,
you
right?
got that right.
Um, what that loophole looks like, hey, maybe you're just bringing back the Delta 8 and all the other carts, and not the ones that got THC in it. Hey, I didn't say it. I didn't come up with it. Not my idea. But steal it
Perhaps
if you want
that.
to, right? Bring
Yeah.
those cartridges back because they're likely probably not to have restrictions. I don't know. That's just guessing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Baked Boss. Okay, so you went to NECAN. You've been with Benzinga. What is the next show that you've got so people can come and find you at the
Yeah.
next show? Even though they don't have to find you at a trade show, we're gonna make sure that they can find you. We're gonna put up the right websites and all that. But where can they find you at the next trade show?
Yeah. So we're scheduled to be at Benzinga next month in Chicago. I believe it's June 12th through 13th. So we're on the fence about a booth, but either way, we'll have a presence there. Our team will be there. We'll still be giving demos and walking around with a tablet and whatnot. So yeah, really just trying to move forward solidly. Oh, we have a partnership coming up with MCBA that we'll be announcing most likely next week. MCBA is one of the preeminent social equity organizations in cannabis. Also, we have another partnership with M4MM as well. We'll be announcing, right. So, yeah, we have great momentum, and we have a lot of great folks on our side, and we're looking forward to it.
Excellent. And then just a little bit earlier in the podcast, you mentioned something about there's kind of like a little trial. People can kind of play around with the Baked Bot. They can, where is that something that they can do when we put up your website? If they go out there, they're able to tinker around with it and so forth.
Absolutely. So we have a freemium plan. So we give you 14 days unleash. Use it all. And then after 14 days, we do kind of restrict some things, but you can still research competitors, chat with Smokey, um, you know, market opportunities and whatnot. It gets a little bit more restricted around being able to send out personalized SMSs and emails and whatnot, right? But you can certainly, even on a free plan, right? We've designed this in such a way where we understand smaller operators just might not have the budget, right? And even if you don't have the budget, we want you to still be able to research your competitors, right? And work to get the budget, right? So that you can use our tools, right? And compete effectively with some of these bigger dispensaries.
Oh, that's so great. And then Martez, do you want to touch on the price points, or is it a custom quote that you have to give based on the breadth of what the
Well,
MSO, the independent dispensary needs?
sure. So yeah, well, we have as I mentioned, a free plan, right? And the next plan up from that starts at 149, and it's $99 per location. The only caveat with that is if you have like over 5,000 customers, right? Then it's each message is a little bit more. It's less than a penny per message, but we do charge a little bit more depending on the number of customers, right? But we've allowed for more than enough for a smaller dispensary at 149, and it goes up from 149 to 499 to 799, which is our early partner launch plan. And 799 includes all of our agents, right? You'll be able to send out those personalized SMSs, personalized emails, push notifications, webhooks, etc. You'll also be able to get growth engine insights, right? How should you be pricing your products? And you can do a lot of this stuff, autonomously, right? Where you just log in, put your data in, and it's not asking for much more than that from you as far as being able to get what you need to make it usable.
Great. Great, that's fantastic. So, before we wrap up here, I have a little bit of a crazy question. So, being that there's so much AI talk, there's so much chatter, 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 even coming out of the White House, and we want to be number one. And I know I kind of kicked it off with that, but you know, it's yeah, we do want to be number one, yeah, and we should
I
be.
do.
We should be putting a tremendous amount of resources into AI, and we should continue on with AI, machine learning, and everything that we're doing, and putting more resources into universities, and putting more resources into everything that we're doing for AI, and putting it into our education, and so on and so forth. And China, I feel like, we hear that China's ahead of us, and then we hear that USA is ahead of us, or that we're ahead of the world, and so forth. And who knows really where we sit? Is China really ahead of us? But I kind of look at it this way: in cannabis, China's doing nothing in cannabis. Okay, China China doesn't play in that world at all. So if we look at it from a industry perspective, if we were to look at AI and cannabis and China, China does nothing in cannabis. Okay, yeah, they make vapes, but who cares? Okay, they make vapes for e-cigarettes and tobacco and all that. Okay,
Sure.
that's a manufacture play
Sure.
purely.
Purely.
China doesn't do anything in cannabis, and if you go to China and you have cannabis on you, it's highly illegal. Um, And we know that cannabis state by state is very unique. Arizona is very unique. Illinois is very unique. Michigan is unique. California is unique. It's highly regulatory, highly compliant. Tribal nations, very unique. They have unique compacts with the state. The California tribes are different than the New York tribes because of their compacts that they have with the state, the
Right.
Minnesota tribes, and so forth. So, can AI in cannabis? Can we be so far ahead in AI in cannabis than China?
Absolutely. And I
Because
think,
we are so highly regulatory. I know we are in gaming. I mean,
sure.
come on. There's only one casino over in China, and that's in Sanya. And it was first flagged as an MGM property back in 2012. Sanya, it was an MGM, and then they deflagged it. There's no casinos over there. The
Yeah.
casino industry, like cannabis, is the most one of the most highly regulated, compliant industries in the world. So,
Yeah.
ahead of the game, let's make AI super, super. I mean, let's just make it fly off the hook. Come on, Martez. Come on,
Sure.
do it,
So,
Martez.
I think that the short answer is yes, because not only can what we're building be applied to cannabis, it can be applied to several other adjacent industries, and even
Yeah, the hemp industry too. I'm going to
yeah,
put hemp and cannabis together because it's all one plant. I mean,
yeah. But
with the
even
leaves.
even as far as retail, even retail, right? Being able to send out personalized commerce is going
Heck
to
yeah.
explode over the next few years, right? But then the more complicated answer is, look, we've been putting a lot of tariffs and different stuff on chips. I'm not 100% sure that that's the best approach, right? Only because if you make your necessity, the thing, then it becomes the mother of invention, right? And look at us, right? Literally, we're we're the embodiment of the mother of invention, right? AI has made it possible for companies like ours to exist, right? So this doesn't work, one way, right? It works asynchronously, right? So the same thing that applies to them applies to us, right? So that's just as their people get smarter, right, and we get more talented. It works both ways, right? So if you make a situation where they don't have access to certain tools, right? Specifically chips, right? Then you make them have to do things that they otherwise wouldn't do, right? And they'll get better at it than you will over time. Example, look at us, right? I think that once the industry really begins to experience our tool, right, they'll realize that exactly what they did was make it very convenient for us to make better tools, right? Because whether it was, dragging feet on integrations and making it hard to do certain things out the gate, right? Where they made it easier for other people, right? So then we had to build workarounds, right? We're literally the embodiment of that. So we have to be careful about, how we tariff, right? Because to me it looks like we're going into sort of a bilateral world, right? Where you have Chinese AI, Chinese technology, Chinese LLMs techniques, and whatever, right? They'll always be behind in the hardware space, right? But as we see, you can make that up with software, right? With genius, algorithms and different things, right? So I think that we have to be smart about this, right? My preference would be, I'm a supply side guy, right? My preference would be, if we're gonna say, hey, look, all right, we're put tariffs on different things, then you should be prepared to invest in guys like me, right? I'm just being honest, right? The folks that
Sure.
are that didn't come from traditional backgrounds but are willing to build and put ourselves out there, right, to build the future, right, as we see, right, because that's exactly what they're doing, right. So if you want to go like for like, right, the disadvantaged class, right, then you should be looking at guys that come from non-traditional backgrounds that have different ways of looking at life, right, and just approaching things, right, which I think as a country, right, we don't invest enough social capital into our own people, right, and it shows, right. So we have AI guys and certain people in the AI space that have raised billions and billions of dollars, right, and then you get a company like DeepSeek to come along, and they allegedly spent 5-6 million to bring a model online, and I'm looking at that like that's not surprising to me, right? Like if you gave me $20 million, I'm pretty sure I can do a lot with it, right? Even more so if you started limiting chips in the way that I could, kind of access that, right? Because now I got to get more creative, right? And $20 million, it buys a lot when you're in a certain, sort of economic strata, if you will, right? Um, in any company, in any country, I'm sorry, right? Whether you're in China or not, right? So we have got to be careful as we begin to, compete at the highest levels. What happens if they take the lead and then the restrictions go the other way, right? We've not invested enough in our own people, right, to get that back, right? So we have to be careful, right? What's good for the goose is good for the gander as well. I'll leave it
For
at that.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, I am so thrilled for you, and I just can't even wait to see your product. I wish that I was attending Benzinga, but definitely another time. But we are going to send people your way,
And,
and
and we'll
so
comp
any,
access. We'll comp
yeah,
access for you as well, Tina.
for
Thank you.
sure. I no, I remember you gave me access. So everybody watching this, please head to Martez, to the BakedBOT's AI booth if you are going to Benzinga, and look out for Smokey.
Look out for Smokey. I'll be there with my tablets and my stickers. So we'll be giving away stickers and swag and hopefully some shirts and different stuff. So I'll see everyone there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we wrap up, Martez, any final words before we wrap up?
Well, first, I want to truly, truly thank you, Tina. It's been a pleasure to talk with you and to talk shop. It's always lovely to get, the opinions and feedbacks of different folks that are in the industry. So I truly want to thank you from, the bottom of my heart and from my team. And I want to thank your producer, Eric, as well. So great job today. And I'm looking forward to watching the replay on this.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have to jump back on here in a couple of months after you've done the summer season. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of action and a lot of people chasing after you and your bots for sure. And looking forward to seeing how it goes for you. But thanks for jumping on the show with us. And we will put all the information up so people can view, and they can go out to your website and check out more about BakedBOT's AI. And thanks everybody for joining us here today on the Lotus broadcast powered by Cannabis X America.